I'm gonna take you back now to 2001, and ShopRite was my first job ever. I was 14 years old. I was a very, very heavy set freshman in high school, and I went in and I got my work papers, and I had actually been trying to get a job before I turned 14, but nobody would hire me, and all I wanted at that time was a cell phone. And in my household where I come from, if you want something, you gotta work for it. So I got this job, and Andre was my boss, and the minimum wage back then was $5.15, and I was so out of shape and so frumpy that my feet would hurt from standing all day bagging groceries. And I would do this on the weekend, you know, to make an extra 70, 80 bucks a week. And I'd spend my time at that pizzeria at lunchtime and then go back there and dread those 50-cent tips for walking somebody's groceries out to the car. But this was my first job. I didn't last too long here, and neither did the cell phone that I got. After a few months, we had to cancel the plan because I just couldn't come up with the money. But while I had it, that Nokia 8260 was pretty damn fly. CVS Pharmacy, that was my second real job. I was 16 years old, I was making $6 an hour, and earlier that year, sophomore year, I had committed to losing some weight, and I was not as frumpy as a high schooler as I had been in the early part of high school. And this boss was not a big fan of me. I guess I talked too much. I didn't work as much as I should have, and I got fired after a couple months. But I used to ride my Huffy all the way down Woodbury Road, a couple miles back and forth each way to make this money, to cover my cell phone, which I had got another one of, and just some basic expenses. I was always working in high school, and this was like a 20 to 25 hour a week job, but I knew that I needed more money if I wanted to fund some of the other things that I wanted to do, and this one didn't last too long either. I was definitely a hot mess with the employment that I had during high school. I wasn't able to keep my first couple of jobs for too long. The next job that we're heading to right now, I kept a little bit longer, probably about a year and a half, and I worked the maximum amount that you were allowed as a high school kid. I was borderline full-time. It was a union job at King Cullen, which is a supermarket, and I made about $7 an hour, and then on Sunday I would get time and a half. So you better believe I worked every Sunday. Working weekends is something that was instilled in me from a very young age, because until you hit a certain point, you don't get a weekend. So King Cullen was the job that took me through senior year of high school. Up until then, I had not started the grossest job ever, and I'll share that with you guys in a moment. But before we do that, I gotta share one really funny story with you about the time that I worked at King Cullen. Before there was Best Market, there was King Cullen, and this job I had the most success in until I got fired for throwing a penny across the store at one of my good friends. I actually helped a bunch of my friends get a job here so that after school we could continue to have fun here at King Cullen. But that all came to an end when one of my friends, I got hired here, and he was training, and I thought for some reason it was a good idea to throw a coin all the way from register, I don't know, 4 to like register 15 across the store. It went just over his shoulder and hit the trainer right below the eye. I tried to act like it wasn't me. I tried to act like it didn't happen, but cameras don't lie. The union fought to help me keep my job. I'd already had an incident before with another kid that had worked here, so my good run came to an end. And I used to ride my bike here a couple of miles each way from where I lived at the time. There was a gym down the road too, and that Huffy, man, it had hundreds if not thousands of miles on it. But one of the craziest things that happened to me while I worked here, all I wanted this whole entire time was a car. And I used to bug my parents all the time, hey, can you buy me this car? Can you buy me that car? I'll pay you this much every month. And it just didn't pan out until finally I bought a car on eBay on Christmas Eve back in 2003. I won an auction for a 93 BMW 325 IS, and I'm gonna share a picture in this video. And I had just gotten it. I didn't have a license yet. I lied to my parents. I told them that I had a junior's license, that blue card that you get from driver's ed, but you need to take your road test for it actually to be a junior's license. And I drove my car here against my father's advice. My insurance did not kick in until the following day, and I came here for like an hour. I was already 3 hours late for my shift. I just wanted my friends to see my car, and I came here, I worked for like an hour, and I pulled out of this parking lot, and follow me this way. This is so stupid, you can't even make this up. I came to that red light right there, and I wanted to be a cool guy, you know. I just wanted to do a little drift pulling out of this parking lot, and when I bought the car, it was perfect. A 93 with heated seats, a moonroof, leather, all the things that you would want out of a 93 Beamer. But the guy told me the tires are bald, you gotta get new tires, and I wanted to be a cool guy, so I peeled off right where that white Lincoln SUV is, and I immediately lost traction. It wasn't snowing and it wasn't icy or rainy, but the road just had that little bit of coat of frost on it, and I peeled off, did a 180, slid backwards, and in the distance you can see Celebrity Diner. I slid backwards about 50 yards, popped the curb, and there's a little bit of a hill going to Celebrity Diner parking lot. Guess what happened? I caught the hill at just the right speed and time, and I did a slow roll upside down into a parking spot between the lines next to another parked car. No license, no insurance. I called my parents, I called my best friend, the police came. I hurt myself a little bit, nothing crazy, but I jumped on that ambulance, I got out of there, and for what I had done versus how much trouble I got into, I definitely got away with one, but that car sat semi-crushed, and it was a slow roll, so the damage wasn't terrible, but that car sat semi-crushed in my garage for the remainder of senior year and was a constant reminder of how stupid I was, and I did not get a car for the rest of the year. I continued to ride that Huffy once again, and that was one of the lowest points in my life. I'll never forget it, December 30th, 2003. And I didn't learn my lesson with cars for quite some time after that, but man, that was a tough one to swallow. So what's the grossest job I ever had? Between senior year of high school and my freshman year of college, where I had gone to Buffalo for only a short time because I messed up there as well, I worked at Driftwood Day Camp in Melville, and my friend's mom used to run the camp, and camp counselors don't make jack. I guess people do it for the love of the camp and for the experience, but I wanted the job that would pay me the most money. So I was getting paid $10 an hour, 40 hours a week, full-time gig. I had to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock at night, and I was a towel boy. I spent my day in the towel shed right by the pool, and that wasn't the gross part of my job. Throughout the day, I'd get to hang out, sneak out, do a couple things, come back, and camp counselors would come and bring their group of campers, and I would have to give them the number of towels that they needed for their group. And so I spent my day in this shack, but the gross part about this job was, at the end of the day, we would have to go into the locker rooms and the bathrooms. I had a girl counterpart and I did the guy's job, and we had to clean those locker rooms and clean those bathrooms. I'm talking about the toilets, I'm talking about the showers, the changing stalls, sweeping, cleaning. I've wiped off number 2 from places where I didn't even understand how they got it so high on the wall, but that was my job, and I was making $400 a week at the time and hustling a little bit on the side, so I was making great money for a 17-year-old, and I needed whatever I could get to go away to college with. So cleaning up the bathrooms and being the towel boy at Driftwood Day Camp was the grossest job I ever had. Can you imagine hundreds of elementary schoolers passing through a locker room and a bathroom and having to clean up after them at the end of the day? And then when I got it there in the morning, we used to have to wipe down the picnic benches and get the camping areas ready for the kids. But the bathrooms were the worst part. Still makes me cringe to this day. But I'll tell you what, those builds, when I finished them up and I cleaned those bathrooms, I got a lot of experience. So once I finished up at Driftwood Day Camp and went away to college, I had saved up a couple bucks, not much. I think I went to school with like $1,100 or $1,200. And my first week at school, I got into a car accident. I had hit somebody's car, and I had to pay for the damage on their car. My car's damage was negligible, and it was a hoopty anyway. So I ran out of money and I had to get another job, and this time it was at Tim Hortons. And if you guys know what Tim Hortons is, it's like the Dunkin' Donuts of Canada. And it's a little better than Dunkin' Donuts, if I might say so myself. But picture me in a visor, a hairnet, the Tim Hortons khakis, a name tag, the Tim Hortons tucked in shirt. And my shift was 6 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a few days a week. I did not concentrate in school at that time. I was just trying to make a decent living, and I was a pharmacy major with a fixed schedule, and I got a 1.4 GPA that semester because I was too busy hustling and trying to make a living. And I got fired from that job as well for using a very choice word for my female manager. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but use your imagination. She heard that I had said something about her. She called me into her office, asked me if I said it. I didn't deny it, and I lost that job. But after that point, I discovered delivering pizza. It's pretty obvious at this point, after that Tim Hortons escapade, that I was a pretty dysfunctional young adult. I discovered that delivering pizza was a good fit for me, being that I couldn't hold any other job clearly for more than a couple of months or a year at a time. So I did that for a couple of years after I dropped out of school. I did it in Buffalo, I did it in Long Island, did a couple pizzerias, and eventually I realized that I was gonna have to go back to school, get my life together a little bit. So I got my accounting degree, hustled my way through college, and here we are now. There's a lot more stories where this one came from, and some of them I probably shouldn't share on a public forum, but I wanted to thank all of you for watching, and for those of you that know me, you're probably cracking up right now because there's some little filler stories that weren't told here. But thanks again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you don't follow me on Instagram, @Pinnacle Real Estate is my handle. Have a great day, everyone.